Welcome back to Retro Racer. So now that the chassis repair is basically done, we come in here to look at the rust damage on the front bulkhead, sort of, and plenum for the what's normally for your vents and wiper or wiper cowl, depends on what part of the world you live in. So this morning I took out the brake pedal assembly. That was a bit of fun, but well worth it. Now, as I said, because the chassis repair is done, I want to now focus on these sections, and just before that I'll just talk about the air conditioner blower. This being an early Thai car with being a base model 316, supposed base model. It has air conditioning only. It has no actual ventilation controls as such. It just has a temperature controller which varies how the compressor kicks in and out via a thermostat on the unit, and the blower obviously, and it's just ducted up through the dash vents. That's a brand new system if you've not seen my other videos, and was only used for a couple of weeks before I pulled the car off the road. So that's just a screw on either side, so that was very easy to undo and just move back, because it was right up against that rust hole there. So just to undo it and to move it back, just to get it out of the way, and then I can protect it with welding blankets and so forth, just so I can do those rust repairs right across there to the middle of the car, and then later on down through the floor. I'll just take you outside. So, right-hand drive car, which is really filthy at the moment. I am going to give it a wash this weekend now that I've rearranged the carport a little. So that's the plenum here, which would normally be your intakes, because that's a high pressure zone here in front of the windscreen, and would go down through your ventilation system. But in this car, being as I said, a 316 base model, it's a sealed unit. So that should go around there into the main unibody structure. That's what I can understand of it. And then this one should come up through here. So I'm recording this as much for my needs and as much to share it with you guys as well. But I may need to refer back to this from time to time, as well as take a few photos in a moment. So what I think I'm going to do is cut this section out through here just for now. I'm going to wire wheel down this gutter here, and wire wheel along here to reveal the spot welds. And then I'll just make a cut straight down through there. My section may not turn out exactly the same or as pretty as the factory section, but it will be every bit as strong, if not stronger, because I use 1.2mm steel, whereas this is all 0.8 from the factory. So that's what I'm going to do now, I think. I'll get on with it. So you've seen me struggle with the one, I can't get into the corner with the 5-inch cutter blades, and secondly the multi-tool saw blades that I've got are for woodworking only. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and I've only got a couple left, so I'd rather save them. So I've just had the bright idea of setting up the MIG welder, because it's only those two corners that I can't get. Crank up the amps and blow it through, but just prior to doing that, because I don't want to disconnect the new air conditioning, I'll just put a leather boot splat on the inside there over those brand new air conditioning lines there. you'll see that I did a lot of cutting, because all I was doing was removing sections that need to be replaced, obviously, but also trying to find good metal. The sound deadener or rubberized material through here is so thick in places, like 10mm thick or 3/8 of an inch, and you think it's the car, it's okay, it's not, but it's gone. So basically you would have seen me cutting away all that sound insulation or that insulated material, and so I could just chase it back. So there's a lot of layers here. Like if you look here, I would say there's 2 layers there. Some of it could be body sealer that we're seeing. That, yes, that's rubberized, so it's not as bad as I think. But yes, so mostly concerned about that structure that holds the top of the brake pedal box assembly. It's okay back this way, but the whole front of it was gone. So that goes on there like that, and then goes onto this section that is reinforced by this pressed channel down to this heavy section of Firewall, and that's that heavy section I've been referring to in prior videos as well. So I'll actually cut that out as well, but I'm just keeping it for reference for now. And then from inside the car, I've just got to be careful. There's those air conditioning hoses, one of my leather boot spats. I have to get in there from inside the car, just get some focus and find out what's going on. And even if I can't get up in there properly, I'll get rid of all this thick rubber crap up in here and get rid of some more material, and I'll somehow get some heavier section pressed, and I'll press it myself, fold it myself. It's got lots of different reinforcements here, but that's what they do in the design to get 0.8mm, or was it 30 thou or something. I'm not too sure what you'd call that in gauge. I've never been that great at sheet metal, but I'm learning. So I'll do something heavier with some ribs in it and stuff like that to get that area back to full strength, if not even better. So the whole front end is tied together not only by the chassis rails but by the structure going back through into the unibody, and also this whole section across here forms part of the structure. Now at the moment, what my main concern is before I continue cutting is the car is, the front end laterally wise, left to right, is only being held together by that really tiny strip of material there. So I'm about to cut that, and then we'll have a look at it and see. I'm just going to cut down that weld there because I'd really like to replace this section first and then bring the support back down to tie it back together, and just have a look and see how the car is going to fare. I can always prop it up. Just out here, I could put a support right up into that section, just a prop down to the ground, wedge it up, just in case it does spring. We'll see. So if you look at that where I just cut, this section here, which would be weighted by the front end of the car, when I released it, it actually, because that was a 1mm cut, just try and keep that in focus for you, and it actually popped up, 1mm blade, and now it's a straight line between where I cut, so it's popped up by 1mm. And I tried resting most of my weight onto the right front corner of the car, and it barely moved. So I'm not even going to bother propping it because it actually moved the other way. And I would suggest all the repairs that I've done down there have actually, preloaded the car back up that way, or or maybe it was just some built-in stresses in the unibody originally. I just transferred that paper layover to this, which worked out to be 270 millimeters square. So, and then I just offered it up, put a bend line in it, and it looks okay so far. So this here is actually one section spot welded on, and that's another section, and that's another section, but we're just going to reduce that to one section throughout there, and then just this rib continuance here for the cover will just be another two sections, as in one section here and then one section going around the corner and up. That's the way I've cut it out anyway. So what I'm going to do now is put some holes in this, and then tech screw it on to that original material that's not cut out yet, and then we'll just then I'll work out about the main under support here, because I just want to get the car tied back together again before I proceed any further. The next two things I want to do is just there, I'll put it in center of screen. There's a reinforcing channel. It's 50 millimeters with 10 millimeter flanges on both sides. That goes down there. It supports that panel and butts up against the end of it there. And then the other thing I want to do also, I'll just pause for a moment. The other thing I'd like to do is, I'd like to think that stud in the center of the screen is the center of the car. Doesn't matter if it's not. But that fold just here, I would like to just get a piece of offcut and make a template of that, and then translate it over here as a mirror image. So I've just done a bit of massaging here. I'm not worried about this sticking out. I was just mostly chasing this here, which I can, being 1.2, I can easily flex that into place. But you'll notice, if you look there, I've got about a 7mm gap. But what the problem is because this hasn't been cut to fit yet, it's actually pushing it out. So if we just put a clamp there, push that down. Yeah, we're down to, I could have set the clamp up better, but we're down to about a 2mm gap. And once again, I would just start tacking here, plus this whole thing has to drop at least material thickness because it's sitting on top of the old one here. So that's going to help. That's going to help this as well. And then I'll just bring that in to match. So what I think I would be doing is, when I'm ready for it, do a cut to fit here to drop this down and start tacking it in through this way. Introduce the clamp to give us that, and then in that spot do the cut to fit here to let that pop in. And then once that's done, we'd introduce this piece of pressed channel up underneath here that sits inside here to join the main support structure that holds the top of the brake pedal box and just pulls the whole body together basically. So that will go down in here, and once I know where it's going to go, I'll measure in how far that is on the underside and drill some plug weld holes. So realistically that should have been made twice as wide so I could easily find it when the time comes. So what I did off camera, I just made this little template up so I can take that over to the bench with me, and I'm going to do all that off camera as well because you've seen enough footage of me playing around with this. I'll hopefully have it into place and show you either tacking it or welding it in. A couple of things that I'm going to do that aren't exactly to plan is, one thing I have done is I have flap discs off about 2 or 3 millimeters from nothing to nothing there, about 3 millimeters in the middle, and that's why you're seeing a gap here at the moment. So I'm going to, when I go to tack it up, I'm actually not going to use the screws, or as other guys would, the Clecos. A little bit unorthodox, but I believe it will work. The other thing I did is I just roughly made up a template of this fold here where the bulkhead firewall transitions into the tunnel. And I almost forgot, I was about to get ready to tack weld in, and luckily I had that written there to remind me. So I've just cast a line across there, and then I'm going to allow material thickness back up again, and then I'm going to attempt to fold that on the bench somehow, something like that. But I did offer this piece up just in here. Just get a better shot for you, and it I pretty well got it right first time, luckily. So I'm pretty happy with all of that. So yeah, two things will happen. The panel will move over to butt up here, and it will move down a fraction, ever so slightly. So just to get it to work here, and then I'll just do a couple of tacks here and possibly down here, and then I'll hopefully still be able to flex it a little bit, possibly not much due to this depth of section, if this line isn't continuing across the car properly. But I think it will. I'll have a look at it in a moment. I've found that the handle off my little folder is about the right radius for this curve that I'm chasing, and it's solid bar. So and this is 1.2 material. So what I'm going to do is, where am I? Just do a cut up through there, and my fold happens just there, and then I'll do it on the camera so you can see whether I stuff it up or not. So that's the inside of that panel. It's hard to get light in there. I might just add some extra light perhaps, without throwing too many shadows. So it's got good penetration from the engine bay. The top's not welded yet, but just that corner there above my torch on the top left, I just need to put a weld up there. I'll do that later on, and I might put a weld on that support section. I might just put a little weld around the bottom of it, and maybe in the top corners a little bit of a stitch weld. So just for orientation, that's the steering column going through the firewall, and that's the bottom pedal box mount, and then we just roll up there to the top. There's the back half of the main structure that goes across the front of the dash. Now half of that I've had to cut away in the engine bay. I'll just take you in there. So there's the engine bay view of those two same welded in nuts, or weld nuts, and that's the section of that structure that I had to cut away, and this is pretty much all that's left of it. You see that rib there, that it joins there, and it goes up on an angle like that. And I'll just take that away for a moment, put that out the way, and then reintroduce the cabin side of the battery tray. So that goes up there, and there's a box section. I'll get a screenshot of one of the earlier videos. Mine is not going to be exactly the same because I've made this a bit longer. It could be cut back, I suppose, but I'll work something out. There's more than enough room for a good sized battery here. So this section will go in there up at an angle, and then I'd imagine I'll put some sort of return on it because I don't want to be welding that overhead in the cabin. So I'll get this done, and then when I make the new one of that up, there'll be some plug weld holes. Either that, or it depends. I have to have a look at the photos myself. I can't quite remember exactly what it looks like, but that's what I'm working on at the moment. And what I need to do is tidy this up. I'm probably, if I can get in there, I'm probably going to cut all that rubbish out because it's pretty rotten. I'll just let it focus where it goes into the side support where the door mounts and so forth. But that section, the vertical section of the structure, is okay. But just this is rotting. Here goes my AdFlow backpack. Okay, so I might even have to cut it out. Just protect. I'm going to split some more exhaust pipe and protect the hoses with some split exhaust pipe that I've got, and maybe some wet rags. And then I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to crank the MIG up and just blow all this shit away, and then clean it up as much as I can with my extended wire wheels and give it a rust conversion. And then what I'll just do in that section in there, I don't know if I'll make it all in one, just pulling back a bit here. If I have to go right from where the factory end of it is just there, I have to go all the way back to the side of the car. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do that in one piece, or if I might just make one piece to about here, or maybe even halfway into that, halfway into that rib from the side of the car, and just use that as a meeting point, and just get that section done. That's going to be a pain in the arse, I reckon.